Hi guys and welcome. We've got another short update just prior to me starting to take this apart. Now you're probably looking at this and thinking, doesn't look any different to the last time I saw it in the video, assuming you've seen the last video of course. Well, let me just show you something. I'm just going to unhook this from the tripod a second. And in all its truly minging glory, you can see that I've started to take this apart and remove the panels, the lid, the rear and the side panels, as you can see, revealing the various bits and pieces. Down there we've got the motor for the rotary pump, which is just forward of that, if you can see it somewhere down there. We'll see all that more clearly when we get around to the nuts and bolts of it all. The 6 litre copper boiler, the various pipes and bits and bobs. All these bits at the front are going to unbolt and come off, including the control panel, the panel at the back there, and of course the drip tray itself just slides out like so. And then, although it's hard to see at the moment because of where it's located, you can see the backs off as well. And there are the panels in question. So if you remember, if you watched the last video, that unfortunately the autofill feature wasn't working. I've been talking to a fella I know that I almost bought an espresso machine from a while ago. Unfortunately, we encountered problems with that particular machine and the whole process ins and outs, which you don't want to hear about in this. But anyway, by the by, very helpful fella, really knows his beans, and he builds or rebuilds and refurbishes commercial espresso machines and sells them. And he's a very friendly and helpful fella. So I was chatting to him, throwing him some information and picking his brains for ideas. And he gave me a few bits and pieces to check, and sort of just based on what I could tell him, he gave me a few bits of information and things that I could do to try and figure out what was what. And off I went to check a couple of bits and started to strip the panels off so I can send him some photographs so he can get a better detailed look at what's what inside there. While testing something, I had the biggest shock imaginable when the autofill pump kicked in unexpectedly, gushing water all over my worktop, which was very slightly annoying, but at the same time I was really pleased that the thing worked. So I don't know whether, as I've been sort of wiggling things around, I've maybe just sort of jiggled something, or maybe it had a bad earth and moving things around so actually sort of made it recontact again. But for some strange reason, while the autofill feature wasn't working previously when you switched on the machine or disconnected the level probe, it is now. Now on top of the boiler, I'm going to demonstrate in a minute, and the good thing about this is it means we can also check whether the water fill spout and the steam nozzle both work as well. And on top of the boiler is a single spade connector with a wire, and that's the level probe. And what I've discovered is the light on the front remains lit when the boiler is full, and it flashes when it's filling, because the instructions weren't very clear on that, and I thought the light on the front was to say that the water level was low. So anyway, what I'm going to do just now is switch on the machine, and I'm going to open up first the water spout on the left hand side and pull the probe, and you'll hear the pump kick in. You'll see the water level start to drop in my temporary water container over there, and as it draws it through to fill the tank, and the water being pushed through will come out of the spout there. And then we're going to do the same thing on the steam one to see if they both work, and you can actually see that that works, which is really good. So over to the machine, and I'm going to do that. So I've got a bit of paper towel on top of the boiler, which is where the blow-off valve for the steam is, just in case of any kind of errors. So I'm going to leave that there because that will fill up and dribble a little bit out of there. And I'm going to pop the jug under there. We're going to open this fully. As you can see, this is running, it's actually running a little bit, and this is because I've already tested this, so I know it works, of course. But what I'm going to do now is switch the power switch on to position 1. You'll see we've got the power light there and we've got the water level light there. And then I'm going to pull the wire off the level probe, which will fool the machine into thinking that it's not grounded with the water inside the boiler and that it needs to refill. Now if you watch this here, there we go, and you'll see we've now got a flow of water. I'm going to reattach the probe. It says hopefully. Oh crikey. Before I flood the worktop, and then I'm just going to go and empty that jug, and then we're going to do the same thing but with a steam wand. We're back with an empty jug, and we've got power on position 1. Position 1 or 2, it doesn't matter. The only difference is position 2 starts heating up the heater element as well. So if your boiler is empty, you can actually burn it out, which is why you put it onto position 1 to fill the boiler first. So open up the steam wand fully. And I'm going to hold the jug up a wee bit because it's probably going to squirt water all over the place. And then I'm going to do the same thing and pull off the spade connector to the level indicator. And there you can see we've got water coming out of the steam wand. We'll reconnect that and it should stop. There you go. Once it's detected that there is adequate water in there, and you'll have seen the light flashing as well as that was doing that. And this is now just sort of pushing out the excess that's currently in the pipework. So I'm going to leave that just to do that. Yep, lovely. And then tighten that back down. So that's great. And then of course we know as well that the group works, but additional to that, I'm just going to show you something else as well. I'm just going to demonstrate on here. You've got the, as I explained in the first video, we've got the sort of the shop buttons, which are pre-programmable, and I wasn't entirely sure how to program these. I now know how to program them. What I don't know is how to reset them back to default, but I will just show you an example. I've now pre-programmed this just to do a 3-second shot, and when you program this, you can program it in such a manner that you'd program it with coffee in, incidentally, and you'd actually extract a shot while you were doing it, because obviously you're going to get a false reading or a false sort of amount of water if you do it with an empty portafilter basket. So you press this will do a time shot of about 3 seconds and switch off, as you can see there. And that wasn't actually even long enough to start pouring water out of there, but it should do this time. There we go, as you can see. Now if I wanted to reprogram that to do a time shot of, say, let's say 8 seconds, just for argument's sake, press and hold the program stop button, and you'll see all of this lights up. Now what I do is I press the one I want to program, whoops, before it goes off, and count 1, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 8, 6, 1,000, 7, 1,000, 8, 1,000. And then I either press the same button again or I press the stop button. I can then go on to program these. That one was out, the others were still lit, showing that they are ready to be programmed, should you want to. And if you now watch this one that was previously putting out a shot of 3 seconds, is now putting out a shot of approximately 8 seconds, which is really cool, isn't it? Or maybe it's just me, I don't know. But I'm just going to reprogram that back to 3 so you can see what was what there. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. And then we'll leave that until these lights go out. And then... And as you can see, it's that's how you pre-program your buttons there. You can, of course, just start and stop with that button if you wish. You can press any of these buttons and then either press them again or press the program stop button to stop them before they stop themselves, before they actually come to the end of the pre-program thing. So anyway, so that's pretty much that, and I just wanted to show you that bit, which I was really pleased about, as you can imagine, especially the autofill feature working. And it does explain too why the machine was so bloody heavy when. And it also explains why the machine was so ridiculously heavy when I was bringing it in. I knew it had some water in the boiler, but apparently the boiler was pretty much as full as it could get, because when the autofill started, unbeknownst to me, I didn't have any of the taps open and I wasn't expecting it to. And it was only filling for a very brief amount of time before the overflow valve started seeping water and it started spitting it into the overflow tube, which goes to the waste pipe underneath the machine, and then I ended up with a big puddle on the worktop. So obviously the boiler was very full at that point. Which I suspect probably happened when the machine originally went faulty and they got the guy to come in and look at it, and he probably, he probably did the whole sort of disconnecting the autofill thing himself, filling the boiler up to a higher capacity than it normally would be. Being a 6 litre boiler, it would probably hold somewhere in the region of about 4 litres of water. Maybe a little bit less, because obviously you've got to account for a certain amount of steam in there for your steam wand and everything else. So there we go, that's where we're at. So as you can see, the panels are off. The next step now is to start stripping the thing into more component parts after I've taken a few snaps for this fella to send him to see if he's got any more sort of useful things to throw my way before I do anything that I shouldn't, perhaps. But the next step is to start giving everything a good clean up and get the boiler and the element and everything out and start looking for a replacement. So thank you for watching. Join us for the next one, and we'll see you in the next one.